This public and bilingual primary school is located in Cartagena, in the neighborhood of Barrio Peral. This means that the type of student it has is really diverse. This neighborhood is characterized for a great diversity with families of different background, economy level, and even ones that live far away from the school. Because the neighborhood is the biggest one in Cartagena. Having taken into account the diverse context of the students, we now have to center in the context of the school. This school is quite big, having two lines with 25 students, more or less, in each level, from 1st to 6th grade, and comes with a big space well distributed. It comes with two different buildings, one for the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade classes, and another one for the 4th, 5th, and 6th classes. A thick classroom, a big schoolyard with a futsal, and three basketball courts, including the same court, and a canteen for the kids that have to stay more time after the school time. Moreover, the school comes with a very active AMPA which helps in the elaboration of multiple activities, excursions and extracurricular sports. Something really important to have in mind is that there are many students that come from less fortunate families who aren't able to afford some activities that the school has or the canteen. For these families, the school and the AMPA try their best to help them, but the budget isn't too big, which creates some difficulties for carrying on some activities. First, flexible family participation models. For this school, I feel that the most important thing should be having a good relationship with families due to the big diversity. For this, it must be vital to communicate with families about their child, having numerous and personal reunions or online if they can some days. Also, listening to parents' advice in the education of their children could be a great measure, and offering monthly reunions with the directive team could help the families to feel connected with the school. For me, this would be a great measure for this school. Second, screen use policy developed with families. It's obvious that the internet and diverse technologies have come to stay for a long time, but from the school we can help the families to regulate the screen use of their children and reduce the bad effects of its overuse. For this, enhancing tech-free moments or days in school and home will be a great measure for the students to appreciate the possibility of entertainment without the internet. Personally, this is another great measure and very easy to apply if we use the previous measure for improving the relationship with families. Parental Digital Confidence Program. It's so important getting the parents to trust the teachers and the tools utilized in class, so getting the parents to know how they work could be a great possibility. Maybe doing monthly workshops would be difficult for both the parents and the teachers, but doing some during the year would be beneficial. This feels like another good measure and one that will help to increment the trust in the teachers and the whole school. Wellness focused communication strategy. I feel like this measure is very similar to the second one but more centered on building the confidence of the students by showing previous students of their school, what they have achieved and how they can learn from them. This measure isn't really important but could be beneficial for groups with self-trust issues or lack of motivation. Multilingual and intercultural family engagement program. We have already established that improving the communication with families is a vital aspect to improve. For this, we have to take into account families with different backgrounds, culture, traditions, and that don't speak fluently Spanish yet. In this case, translating the communications in the different language present would be helpful for getting the families involved. Moreover, it would be great to create a week where students could share their family and culture values to all their classmates. This would surely help integration and would promote a tolerant attitude in all the students. This is surely a great measure for our school. There are plenty of factors affected by these five measures. The most obvious ones are the parents and the teachers, as they are mostly centered on improving the relationship between them and their respective communication. Nevertheless, the students are also affected because all these measures help the students adapt and improve their knowledge about the internet and other cultures. Finally, the directive team would also be affected if the flexible family participation models is fully utilized, as it includes numerous reunions between parents and the whole directive team. As there are many actors affected by these measures, there would also be numerous relationships affected by them. This would include the relationship between the teachers and the parents, and the objective is to improve it, the relationship between the teachers and the students as a consequence of the improvement of the communication with parents and the increment of the trust in the school, and the relationship between the parents and the directive team. Finally, it also affects the relationship between the students, having sessions where they share their respective traditions, values, religions, and costumes can help the improvement of their relationship and the better understanding of each other. The solution proposed by the AI doesn't consider the possible disabled students, their needs, and how to take them into account, and not only for the lessons but also for accessibility and socialization with the other students. The AI proposal doesn't leave any relationship without addressing it. Maybe it doesn't take into account external factors as the town council or the educational administration, but they aren't that relevant in the objectives that these measures try to achieve. This point will aim to utilize the subject's schedule better, adapting to the hours where the students focus more, usually, and leaving subjects that don't need the same amount of concentration for other hours. This will get subjects like maths, language, or science on the first lesson of the day, where the students are able to stay more focused due to being more fresh. They haven't done anything before except for unique cases. This point would follow a transformational type of leadership where the principal aims to reshape the schedules to match children's natural rhythms and get them to attain better the concepts and knowledge. As this school is a bilingual one, we can play with the advantages that it gives us. This means that we can adapt the points of each subject for not duplicating lessons and let the teacher center harder concepts without repeating things that can be learned in other subjects. An example of this could be learning vocabulary of plants or animals instead of having two subjects teaching this, English and natural sciences. They could learn this vocabulary at the same time that they learn about the plants and animals in the natural science class. This would leave more lessons free for teaching more difficult vocabulary in English and wouldn't take an extra lesson of natural sciences as they learn both things at the same time. This point adjusts to an instructional leadership where the director leads to curriculum integration for improving learning coherence and improves the collaboration between teachers. This point addresses the complexity of teachers having little time for preparing their next classes inside the school. They have time in their homes, but we want them to have more time inside the school, and for planning cooperatively with other teachers, which is aligned with the second point. The guardian roles will be better divided, having this work fall more in the directive team for letting more time for the teachers for planning their classes inside the school, or cooperating with other teachers for united lessons or the measure proposed in the previous point. The leadership style that fits in this point is the servant leadership, where the director supports the teachers with the time and space they need for succeeding in their practices. In this point, the complexity addressed is the parent-school coordination, which is vital in the school, as we explained before. This will mean that the family's suggestions and needs will be taken into account for changes in the schedule, or for creating support lessons as extracurricular activities for students that need them and can be picked up by their parents after the last lesson. For this point, the leadership style that fits better is the democratic leadership where the director takes into account the needs of the families and values communities' input for creating solutions. The students that need more services like PT often miss important lessons or many lessons of some subjects, for which these inclusive services will be scheduled in different hours taking into account the subjects that these students have. The objective of this point is to ensure that students will miss an equal amount of classes, giving priority to core subjects as mathematics or Spanish. The leadership style of this point is the ethical leadership where the director seeks fairness for all learners. In the Spanish educational system, there have been some laws regarding the attention to diversity since 1970. From that year to the last educational law, there has been an evolution of this attention, shifting from segregation to actual inclusion. The first law was the Ley General de Educación 1970, where there were some elements of normalization concerning disabled students, but the special education was conducted in separate schools. The next law was the LOCSE 1990, allowed and embraced the concept of educational inclusion, defending that special educational needs students should be integrated into mainstream classroom if it's possible. The third and fourth laws was the LOE and LONCE. These laws continue to promote attention to diversity by establishing measures for equal opportunity and reinforcing inclusive education. Finally, the last education law was the LOE 2020. This law defends the right to an inclusive education and follows the UDL. It also promotes inclusion further than to special needs students, but also to cultural and religious diversity. An example of diversity in a classroom of a primary public school could be the case of a student with autism who is in 4th grade, second cycle. The school will implement an individual work plan, IWP, supported by a PT. The school and the teachers will try to foster a culture of respect and inclusion, proposing inclusive methodologies as cooperative learning. Secondly, an example of diversity in a classroom of a primary private school is different, as they can select the students they receive, which helps them have less special needs students. Nevertheless, a usual case could be a Muslim student in a Catholic school. In this case, the school would respect the students' religious traditions and offer an alternative to religious classes or allow Islamic students when it's possible. This is due to the fact that the school, despite being a private institution, must adhere to the constitutional rights and current educational laws. In conclusion, educational laws in Spain have shifted from exclusion to a full inclusion of special needs students and students from different backgrounds. I think that the mark that I deserve for this exam is around an 8, maybe a 7. I think so because I feel that I have done a pretty good job, being very complete and giving large responses that explain perfectly my vision for each exercise. I think that the most crucial idea about the school organization is the different types and styles for grouping the students. This is one of the most important aspects of education because if a class doesn't work well together, it will be very difficult for the teacher to do their work properly and can create a bad environment inside the class, leading to possible future problems. An idea about school organization that we have explored in these schools and that I couldn't imagine before is the system of different types of leadership. Obviously, I knew that each director performed their work differently, but I didn't know that there were specific types of leadership and that they were followed. I always thought that they did what they felt was better for the school without following a specific described style. For me, it wasn't really an idea. It was learning that the schools create an individual working plan for each student that needs attention. I already knew that they receive a special treatment because I had classmates that received it, but I didn't really know what was the work behind it. I am surely more aware about it, even though I already thought that it was important to attend it. Now I know how all this work happens, which procedures are followed, and how it can help the students to achieve their goals and an equal and fair education. I have learned that AI can be used for helping to create a program for improving the inclusion of him in a primary school. Nevertheless, it is necessary that a person follows the creation of the program and makes some changes in it, because ChatGPT can be too general or have some errors because it gets information from the internet and can storm into some fake news or misinformation. Also, the director has to adapt this AI program to the context of its school and their available resources.